Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of Tea and Coffee with Paula and.
Tired Jay, a little bit tired. Actually, I'm not too bad. Coffee's starting to kick in. But good morning, everybody. A big show for you today. Lots of stuff going on. I got a lot of light right here. Still working it out. But we needed to get Paula all lit up.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm tuckered. Yesterday was a long bit of a physical day, and so I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in the morning.
Physical in my way. What were you up to?
We were putting out lawn signs. Well, you can't see it because he hasn't switched the camera because here lawn signs. No, we were putting them out yesterday, and we subsequently discovered
We got to move some of them. We got to move some of them for sure. Like perfection is something that we haven't reached yet, but the federal lawn sign rules and the provincial lawn sign rules are different in one way, and that is near intersections. The federal rule was it can't be too high.
Yeah,
you can't block. Yeah, you can't block people who don't see the traffic and stuff like that. Which our signs are not. They're nice and low. But the provincial was you got to be away from the intersection, so we're gonna have to move a few of those signs.
Yeah, in the great scheme of things, not many, but it's we live rural, so it's not like they're right. They're right there. We got to move, drive, etc.
Rinse, repeat. Rinse, repeat. But yeah, we'll get them done because actually, I think you were having a lot of fun yesterday. Ran into a couple of times when you were putting your signs down all over Brett. And yeah, you had a big smile on your face and you're like running around doing it.
Yeah, it was fun. I was also having fun because I had Jacob with me, and so we were having a good time. Every time I opened the trunk, hello, surprise! He just took his head around the corner. And no, it was good. And good activity. I got some honks as I was putting some signs up, which was nice. I was like, yeah, vote October 20th.
The hair got the honk. You're a very lovely lady.
No, this hair was from yesterday. It needed, I needed a wash, and my hair needed a wash. But yeah, this was for the event we went to yesterday evening at Buck Creek Hall. Good job for everyone who put it on, the Buck Creek Hall Association, who put on the event. Good job, and thanks for thinking of the community that way.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So our update from the homestead is the lawn signs. There'll be another update tomorrow as we move them. And, and the event last night in Buck Creek, it was an honor to be invited to it. All the candidates were invited for Division 6 and the Reeves, as well. So I got to meet the current Reeve and then the Reeve who's running, so Pat Voss. The current Reeve is Art Guyon. Yeah. And only one of the opponents of mine showed up. Dallas Ekstrom did not show up. He sent his apologies, but I did get to see Sarah Wheeler, who we voted for last. Wheel? Is it Wheel?
Yeah, there's
okay. There's no R at the end. Well, I just changed her name. Maybe she has to update her signs. I got to meet with her as well, and then the community. It was a pretty good event. How was it from your perspective? Because you were in the audience checking it out.
It was good. I think it was a great opportunity because it was a little opportunity for everyone to speak about yourself, who you are, 7 minutes. Then there was the Q&A, and then a little brief summary. This is, who I am again and what I can do for you. And I think it really did. Once they warmed up, it gave the community the opportunity to ask the questions to the current Reeve, about certain particular issues or questions, and then give, of course, his opponent the opportunity to say, like, well, this would how I would do differently, if at all. Unfortunately, for those looking for the councillor for Division 6, they couldn't do that because he wasn't there, but it gave, again, the candidates, both Jason and Sarah, the opportunity to say, well, this is what I would do, and this is where I think this works or this doesn't work, and also gave you the opportunity to potentially work in conjunction with the Reeve to say, look, we need your assistance to get certain things done, and this is how we could work together.
Yeah, actually, you had a good opportunity to learn some of the major issues. So the ditchweed issue, the thistle, was a major issue because it's ruining crops and needs to be addressed. Also learned about how they want more transparency, actually see where the money's going and all that kind of stuff. With that one, we knew because we've been talking to a lot of people about that. And I was able to kind of provide part of my platform, which is to add more technology to the county data so that people can get to it. For example, we talked about expanding an interactive map. And it was really cool to have the Reeve there for that part because what I was able to do was, with his help, explained to the people of Buck Creek and Division 6, plus there's a lot of people from other divisions there as well, exactly what we can do with technology. For example, I highlighted how I would ensure that complaints and progress updates were being provided on the interactive map. So if you said, for example, there's a ditch that needs to be mowed, and you called in a complaint or a request for it to be mowed, you'll see it on the map, maybe red saying, hey, there's an issue. Yellow, it's in council, progression's being made. Green, it's been done, that kind of thing. And real time, the Reeve was able to say to me and the rest of the audience, we do have an interactive map. And then I highlighted to him, but it doesn't have this complaint progress tracking. And he agreed. And then he also said we could expand on that.
Yeah.
So I was able to get a commitment out of the Reeve last night and the potential future Reeve that this will be a priority for the council. So before we even get a single vote done, we're getting some work done for the county.
Yeah, because that was something that this interactive map that can be expanded upon touched upon a couple of questions that people had or concerns that they wanted addressed. And this is a side note. Hey, Phil. Hi, Phil. I was at the Plaid Jack. I want to say hi, but you were busy. So great that you were there.
Well, Phil, I saw you because of Plaid, and I think I even stopped by at the beginning to shake your hand, and I admired your jacket, your Plaid jacket. So, Phil, thanks a lot for joining the show this morning. And if you don't mind, Phil, throw in a couple comments there about what you thought about the panel and how it progressed, because it did start off with us introducing ourselves, and then we kind of got into some of the issues. Another one that you were highlighting there was with the interactive map, we could put the costs and budgets and how much a road is, and we can go back up 10 years or so to show people the progress of the expenses and the money spent on those roads. So people can kind of highlight, because one of them was, why did you do Highway 71?
71 twice, it seems.
Yeah. And Bart gave an answer to that, but you would have been able to kind of get that information yourself if that interactive map had that data. And another one was, we'd like to see where the money's going. So we'd like to see basically line item, not have to go through freedom of information requests and other things to collect this data. Even just phoning in, yes, the county is very good at getting back to you, providing you information, but it'd be great if residents and ratepayers would be able to just do it from their own home using an interactive map. So that went over well, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it went well. It gave an opportunity for people to see and hear from the candidates, and then also for the candidates to get an understanding of what are some of the issues that they're going to be addressing in the community.
And one of the major ones was homelessness. They were using a different term, unhoused. Yeah, no, look, let's use the right term. We're not going to allow this Marxist programming to get us to change our words. And the way it came out was, we were all sitting together. I was on the end on the right side from my side, if you're from the audience on the left. And the question, the moderator, he would bounce around on which way it would be answered. This particular question started with the Reeves, and then it ended with me. And the first 2 or 3 people highlighted how, we're aware of this issue. It's a global issue. It's a challenge all over the place. Lots of people are involved. There's a lot of responsibility, various jurisdictions and levels of government, and it's a tough problem to handle. I took a different approach, which was zero tolerance. Even though people are ill and they need some sort of assistance, mental health, maybe with their addictions, it was highlighted how some of these people who were approached for job offers and to work said, no, I make more money with crime, so I'm focused on crime instead. So when it got to me, I said, no, we need zero tolerance. We need zero tolerance with the province. They need to do what they're doing. They need to pick up their slack. We need zero tolerance with the RCMP. They need to follow up with this crime, make sure that people are addressed when they're criminals. We also need zero tolerance for the Drayton Valley, the town of, because it's basically their land that this is on.
Their landfill. That's where there's the camp. Yeah.
And we need to stop focusing on the mental health addiction portion of this and focus on the crime and safety for the community portion of this. Because if we do that and we have zero tolerance, the word will get out that this isn't a place.
This is not a place to come. Yeah.
Don't come here. They're not going to tolerate you.
In the words of Kamala Harris, don't come. Don't come.
Right, because if we are tolerating it and open to having the CBC come by with a camera to film it and show it, I think you're not actually addressing the issue. So I kind of close with the comment that it's still a problem even when the cameras are off. So let's have zero tolerance of it. The audience, the ratepayers, absolutely responded quite well to that one.
Yeah, they did, and as they should, because they're tired of it, they're scared of it, and it shouldn't. Again, it shouldn't be tolerated in our communities, because when we tolerate things, that's how it becomes the norm and acceptable, and the change and unwanted change occurs.
Yep. So it was great to meet so many of the people, and I did learn that a few people definitely not once they got to meet me and hear from me, because I was just, as one woman put it, just some random. I don't even know who this guy is. Here's his signs. I don't know who he is. But being able to connect and talk to people, I think was really helpful.
Sure.
And I'm sure I picked up some support last night. So we're gonna have to go out there and do two more important things: move some signs,
Yes,
and knock on some more doors.
yeah.
So we'll be doing that. They're also very happy with the idea that I would bring community meetings to Buck Creek before the council meeting. So the council meetings are the first and third Tuesdays of the month. So the first and third Monday of the month, I'll be in Buck Creek for a 2-hour session to listen to the residents. And this helped also to gain confidence with people who were concerned that I'm new to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We've only been here for 4 years. So how would you possibly know what we want? That's how. How we'll sit down and we'll talk every single day before council meetings to ensure that it's all fresh, it's understood. I can share the agenda with them because I get that a few days before. We can go through the agenda and make sure they're represented.
Yeah, and I have that same opportunity if I was to get a school trustee position, because every month the school with the parents have a meeting that I would be invited to. That gives me the opportunity to find out what are the issues that they have, any pros, cons that's going on, and then I can take that subsequently to the monthly trustee meeting as well.
So thank you very much to the Buck Creek Community Association for putting that on. It was a wonderful event. Great donuts, great water, great coffee.
Oh, the donuts were good. That was from a bakery. I don't know the name of the bakery, but the main bakery in Drayton Valley. Delicious, fresh, fluffy, great.
And something worked in my favor because I didn't have a donut at the beginning. I just want to have some water, get ready. And I'm like, if there's one left at the end, I'll have it. And lo and behold, as I was talking to people, the woman came by with one single donut in the box and said, "Who wants the last one?" I looked around. Do you guys want it? No, mine.
Do you know who she was? That is Rocky's new mum, and that's who we got Charlie from. Our dog.
I did not know that detail.
Yeah.
So next time I see her, I'll say thanks for taking her in.
And she's our local honey connection. Once we finally run out of Corey Morgan's honey and Nicole Hodgkinson honey, they'll be, because they're our original source of honey. So, yeah.
So we have multiple sources.
Honey. Yeah, we're hooked up.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the update from the farm, the homestead
the campaign.
Yep. Yeah, we had a good time last night. I wish there was more of those, but there's not going to be an all candidates meeting. They've done that in the past, but this year not so much. But we will be holding some events. Main one will be on Thursday, so tomorrow, back in Buck Creek. It's going to be Dr. Modry from the APP updating everybody about the delegation to the U.S. So let's get the word out to there, Phil. Tell everybody. And I'll be sharing that as I'm knocking doors in Buck Creek over the next couple of days to remind everybody to come out for Thursday night to see Dr. Modry.
Yeah, and Max from freedomcalendar.net has put it up as well. He's done a post and he'll be putting it on his website too.
Yep, and I've gotten permission to change the sign outside the community hall to make sure that people that are driving by get to see it.
Great.
And I'm pretty sure that that's not breaking any rules because it's not by an intersection. we'll live with the sign rules of rural Alberta. All right, let's jump into the news. So the big one, of course, is going to be the sentencing of Chris Barber and Tamara Leach. That happened right after the show. We jumped on. I'll give you an update from the court itself. So I sent a request too late. It was too late. It was the night before. The court was closed. And then it was first thing in the morning was the Barber Leach thing. But I have been approved and confirmed that I'm permanently added to the media list for the Ontario courts. Every week, they send out a message that gives access to the Zoom links of all the court matters there, whether they're virtual only or hybrid, which means there's a court in person and virtual. So going forward, I now have full access. So, for example, in November, when the results of Chris Barber's seizure of his truck come up, and will be in the courts. Barber will be virtual because, as we'll get into, he can't really get out there anymore, and so will I. So I'll now have access to all matters. Detective Helen Cruz, when she enters the court system, that'll be one. Dan Hartman, I'm not sure if he's federal. I think he's Ontario Court. So I'll have access to that. And also, they made the same request to the Supreme Court of Canada to go ahead and get access, at least to be put on the media list so that I can be notified of updates, but also to try and get access via the cameras.
Hear that, Alberta courts?
Yeah, here's what I'm going to do is after I do my interview with Danielle Smith, I'm going to pass that over to the courts because I qualify. They're just resistant to it. Something along the lines of we don't do independent podcasters, but we have a business.
Yes,
so
yes.
we've provided all of that stuff to them. So I'll also send over Danielle Smith's interview and say, look, like we definitely do interviews. We're very open with our journalism. So maybe we can get past that barrier and get the exact same access in Alberta. But Ontario, boom, bada boom, bada bang, we're good to go. So we did a 3-hour play-by-play. Thank you very much to Right Blend, Jonathan, who was in the courtroom doing excellent work getting information out. I think he ended up with 40 different posts. The last one being you can support him at realrightblend@gmail.com. If you want to support that kind of journalism, I would encourage you to, because he did a great job. So the high level gist of it is, well, here's Right Blend. So for sure, you can even read the thread that he was doing because he did a great job on documenting it. So you felt like you were there. So thanks again, Right Blend. But the gist of it is Chris and Leach, Tamara, both have the same, basically the same. She's got 100 hours of community service more than him. But as we go through this 18-month conditional sentence, so don't be confused. It doesn't mean they're in jail. They are not in jail. Conditional means it's a sentence that they're going to be doing in the community. They both are going to have to remain in the jurisdiction of the court unless written permission is provided, which means they have to check in with somebody. They're going to have a lot of communication with the court over the next little bit because the court's going to be keeping an eye on them, per se. Both of them got 12 months house arrest, which means they can't leave their home unless it's for work. And I did confirm this to Barbara as well. So if it's for work, religious reasons, or legal reasons, they can. But they're definitely going to have to coordinate with the court to let them know where they're going for that, the times, and they're going to be expected to be right back. So 12 months house arrest. They're allowed out for 5 hours a week for the necessities of life, so haircuts and things like that. They are able to go out and go do that 5 hours a week. And then there are some other conditions. They for Barber, for example, he got an exception to go clear the snow for his parents.
Yeah, he does.
And Leach got an exception to be there at the birth of her grandchild. So this is the level that their life is at now. They're not in jail, but they're in community.
Put your hand up and ask if you.
Yeah, in community jail. Now, nobody's pleased about this at all. They definitely shouldn't have been charged. They shouldn't have been found guilty. What they were doing was the right thing to do. I believe they always were covered by the Charter of Rights for the actions. The judge did highlight that there was peaceful, no damage. So a lot of the narrative that was floating around, she did find against it. But she also highlighted how there was residents who provided testimony, and that was impactful on the judge. She weighed that quite a bit, but did highlight their arrest was peaceful. They weren't trying to destroy infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. So some of the highlights there were good, but nobody's happy. And I'm sure the other side who want to see these people in jail, the Crown included, are also not happy.
Yeah.
But, as we learn in law, when you go to school there, about that, usually both sides are going to be a little unhappy with something, and then that's likely the fairest decision. Now, with that said, I hope that Barber and Leach appeal this sentence and it can be overturned in the future. One piece about this that I'm really not happy about is Leach. Tomorrow she had 74 days of credit because of her time served, so she had 50 or 49 days in jail, and you get 1.5 times that as credit. That's why it's close to 75 days there. And what I don't like about what the judge did on this is they put that to the end of her sentence when she's in the 6-month period of you don't have to be house arrest anymore. You're just under some conditions like curfew. So she has less curfew time portion to her
Right.
sentence. I think it would have been far more fair to recognize that being in jail is like house arrest. So she should have had 74 days less of house arrest
Yes.
and then the full 6 months of curfew. That would have been a lot more fair because she was locked up
She
for
would
that
literally,
period of time.
yeah, exactly.
But that's not the way it's going to work. She's going to get full 12 months house arrest plus her curfew period minus 74 days.
Yeah.
So I'm not pleased about that. It should have been the other way around. Take the jail time credits off the beginning of the sentence. So she would have ended up with 10.5 months of house arrest and then 6 months of curfew. That would have allowed her to get back to her life sooner and would have, in my mind, justified a little bit more of what those credits value is for.
Yeah.
She was locked up. It wasn't a curfew credit. She was in jail. So I hope they appeal. I hope that eventually justice comes their way, but I'm glad they got to go home.
Yeah, exactly. It was like I'm pottering around. I have you guys playing on my on my phones. I'm getting stuff done, and I'm communicating with a friend who like, come on, let's get to this. And then as it comes out, it's like, yes, okay, it's not prison, not jail. It's not the 680s. And I think that was one of the things that the judge came out with, like, neither the Crown or the defense are getting what they want.
Right.
They've already made it clear there's going to be some middle ground somewhere.
Yeah. And to be frank with you, I think this is the best case scenario given the precedents at the time. It's because they went through the precedents. Pat King, who was in the courtroom, the Hughes situation, including Marco and Tony and Chris and all of that, Arthur Pawlowski, all of these came up as precedents, and those did have prison time.
Yep, that's
some
right.
of them. So given given all of that, I think this was the best case scenario. They can go home, but they'll have conditions. But I'd like to see even that lifted. I don't think they should have the condition.
Yeah, I agree, and I think many others do as well.
Yep. So it was a mix of sad because they, of course, were sentenced. People were hoping that the judge would just throw it out. That's not how this works. That's in the trial portion where she can throw it out.
Yeah, they already have the conviction.
Yeah, it was already convicted guilty. This was the sentencing portion, and there are guidelines that the judge has to follow. So there was no availability of this to just be thrown out. So those people that were hoping for that, I'm sorry, you misunderstood how this court system of ours works. Yep. But appeals are where these can be thrown out after review. We'll see where that goes. Congratulations again to Randy Hilliard. I think he's crushed it all. I think this might be the end of his political prosecution journey. So 25 charges that he faced because of Doug Ford 5 years ago, because Randy was the only one that kind of stood up to the COVID mandates. He opposed it. So he received 25 charges, total maximum penalty of $2.5 million and 25 years in jail. This was directed by Doug Ford. It also caused him to be kicked out of the Conservative Party of Ontario and serve as an independent. Well, after 5 years, 0 convictions. The prosecutors in Smith Fall, Ontario, have entered a stay of proceedings, means they're not going to continue at all against Randy. This might be the end of his legal journey because he had so many. He had so many. It wasn't just one thing he had to deal with. This was all pre-COVID, like pre-convoy. I mean, this was pre-convoy stuff that he was facing. So that's all gone now. And the convoy stuff was thrown out as well. So he might be a free man. So hopefully there's a way to recoup all of his costs.
Because you can't take the time.
Yeah.
That time is lost.
Yeah, in his political career. But he is the one that stood up for you all in Ontario, was fighting hard. And now this particular portion of his prosecution journey is over.
And yeah, Brother T in our locals chat says, yep, done. Congratulations, Randy.
Yep. So I'll do my best probably after the election to have Randy on to go ahead and talk about this. He's been on several times. He's a great man. Went to his house when we were out in Ontario and hung out with him and did an interview. So likely we'll get something from him soon. Jessica Rose, Dr. Jessica Rose, a fantastic doctor. I like her little thing there. She's going to be joining us tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, we'll be talking to her. She's been pushing the exposure of the VAR system and the science, and she's been working with Dr. Speaker. And the door's opening now for these doctors because they are being taken seriously all over the U.S. and other parts of the world. Not so much in Canada yet, but the door's opening. So we'll be sit down with her tomorrow morning. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be good. She was a good guest when she was on last time.
Yep. I think we've had her maybe twice now, or I've been on a panel with her at least once.
Yeah.
So it was great for her to agree to come back for tomorrow morning. Alberta Prosperity Project is highlighting here. Of course, we knew this was going to happen. So Danielle Smith said, hey, we want to go west with our oil, do a pipeline. We're going to start this off. And of course, BC leadership, not necessarily the people, but the leadership is not happy with it. He's frankly David Eby, Mayor David.
That guy.
Mayor David of BC.
Yeah.
Is absolutely upset with the idea of oil flowing west to be used to enter the markets. He's standing in the way. So I'm not surprised. And Premier Smith, a quote from her, there is no universe where Alberta will tolerate being landlocked in our own country. And Alberta Prosperity Project says, we agree. After more than a century of this, we've run out of all options. It's time we separate and become an independent nation. Remember, under the law of the sea from the UN, landlocked nations, so we'd have to become a nation first, have access to tidal waters. Some silly people online said, does that mean that like via guns, you're going to force BC to do it? It doesn't work that way. There's a negotiation that happens on where it's going to be, but we're going to get a 20 nautical mile wide corridor and 20 nautical mile wide port access. So it's up to the negotiations after, with the pressure of the entire world and the UN's regulations around this article. I can't remember which exact one it is, but there's many countries that are landlocked, and this is why this exists, is because trade, communication, and travel has to be provided. This is an agreement the world has with all nations.
Yeah,
so
with each other.
Yep, and it's not like it's going to be unpaid. Like I'm sure the royalties of our trade, some of it's going to go to BC as compensation, and the lands that we cross, they have to be compensated. Not like just taken by force. But at the end of the day, a landlocked nation, a province, as you can see here in Canada, nation will have a path forward to go ahead and trade with the rest of the world.
Fantastic.
Yep. So the Justice Center here is highlighting Barber again, laying out what we've talked about here. This is where I did confirm that employment, legal, medical are exceptions, and I also believe religious was as well. And here are some of the highlights from Justice Heather Perkins-McVeigh, where she said that Barber came with the noblest of intent and did not advocate for violence. Very true. Nobody did. Nobody advocated for violence that went there, but Barber was on record doing that. And the justice also continued that, and she emphasized the peaceful nature of the 2022 Freedom Convoy, describing it as a non-violent protest, no property damage, no intent to harm critical infrastructure. And she noted that Chris moved his own truck and encouraged others to do the same, consistently promoting cooperation with law enforcement. And the JCCF is going to have a detailed analysis of this as well. And we may find time next week to get them on to break this down even further for you, because JCCF covered Barber's defense, and certainly will have a lot of insight that they can share with us. Trump is openly talking about the crazy woke agenda and trans foolishness to Carney, right to his face. And some people may not know this, but one of Carney's daughters is trans. So this is, and I'm sure Trump knows this, and it could be why he's highlighting this. But this is what we have here. We have a leader who believes, and perfect timing for our guest, but we have a leader who believes that trans is a thing, encouraged, maintained, supported his own daughter to do that. And Trump is right here highlighting how crazy that is, right to his face.
Yep.
I haven't gotten a breakdown of the rest of this meeting yet, because yesterday was full. We did the signs, got ready, did the event, also did the coverage for 3 hours of the sentencing.
Yeah, exactly. It was a full day.
I got some catching up to do. But this was highlighted by Andy Lee. We love her. She will be on the show sometime soon. And Yeah, Trump right to his face called the trans business nonsense.
Nonsense, I say.
Nonsense.
Nonsense.
So again, Thursday, join us in Buck Creek with Dennis Modry, and as we break down with him and learn more from him about the delegation that went to the nation's capital of the U.S., so Washington. And you see here that our event for Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary isn't here anymore. I put back my run for office because we're going to have to change that date. Alberta Prairie Rising is a very big event. We support it. We definitely want people to be able to get there. It's not that we didn't know about it. Okay,
Yeah.
so we weren't trying to compete with it. But we've spoken to some of the supporters and people that want to be at our event. They can't be there because they're already committed to going to Regina. We understand. And with the election and a few other factors, we're going to move this date to end of November, maybe early December, to ensure that people have the opportunity to do both. So please, we would encourage you to go to the Prairie Rising event in Regina. Lots of great people there. And then go ahead and make some time for us later in the year as we're going to meet up. And I believe we're going to do Red Deer.
Because it's so central to Edmonton and Calgary.
Yep.
Not too far away from either. So,
but we'll keep you all posted on that.
Yeah.
There was a decision made yesterday after we spoke about it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our guest of the half an hour. Mia, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
morning.
We're good. We're good. Did you have your avocado toast this morning?
I did not. That's hilarious that you remembered that.
I'm one of those detail guys, because you're like, hey, don't judge me. I'm having avocado toast. I'm like, I'm not gonna judge you. I don't care.
It's good.
It is good. Does it not mark me as a hipster? That's what I feared.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you didn't come off as hipster because of your subject matter. You were there at the Unify event, and you couldn't be a hipster and do all of that as well. But I got to do something. This is very important. Can you say water?
Water.
Paula, can you say water?
Yeah, water.
Okay, so I'm outnumbered now. I'm outnumbered. So apparently, water. That's how we say it now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Water. Gosh.
This gets us all the time. But Mia, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And let's kind of introduce you to our audience because they may not know who you are. Some, I'm sure, do. But let's go ahead and introduce you to the rest of them.
Introduce myself.
Please do.
My name is Mia Hughes. Excuse me. I'm a journalist and researcher. I'm currently the director of GenSpec Canada, which is an organization that advocates for a non-medical approach to gender-related issues. I'm a senior fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute here in Ottawa. And yeah, I'm a Brit living in Canada. Well, I'm Canadian too, but of British descent.
Thank you very much for being here. And I did keep my promise. I listened to that interview on my way home and it was an excellent interview. So I didn't hear what you heard. I know the criticism we give ourselves. I hate my voice. I hate hearing myself. I hate even seeing myself. I get it. But I thought it was a fantastic interview.
What interview is that? Oh, yes.
The one is you're worried about your volume because you're like, you had to speak up louder. And I didn't hear the fluctuation of the volume at all. I heard the content, and the content was fantastic. First thing I did was shared it with my wife. She agrees. So you got 2 votes from here that was a wonderful interview. Do you want to kind of let people know what I'm talking about here? Like, who was that with? Where were you? And what was the subject matter of that?
Yeah.
Sure. So we recorded, it was with, I hope I get his name right, Jan Jekielek. Is that how you pronounce it? Of the Epoch Times?
Don't ask me.
American thought leaders. We were at Dissident Dialogues in New York, and I was a speaker there last May 2024, and I was speaking about the WPATH files, which was an expose that I wrote when I was working with Michael Schellenberger. He was given a bunch of leaked internal communications from somebody inside the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, a group that, if you want to understand the scandal of gender medicine, you have to understand WPATH, as they're known. That's the group that sits at the core. So interview that I did. It was just like it's difficult for me to watch because we recorded it in the main auditorium where Dissident Dialogues was taking place. So every time there's music or applause or whatever, I raise the volume of my voice naturally over the sound, and then they took out the sound. But the interview itself, is the content of it, I have no problem with. I summarized the atrocious medical scandal of so-called gender-affirming care, the appalling harm and fraud and corruption that the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH, has committed over the last couple of decades, and just the social contagion that's striking young people and the cultural aspect of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what I really enjoyed about that is I didn't know much about WPATH at all. So this was a very good introduction for me on it. And what you were highlighting is they pivoted. So they originally started off identifying and recognizing that this is a mental disorder, gender dysphoria type of stuff. So they recognized, and they were advocates for the mental health care portion of it. And then they pivoted into forcing the agenda on people to accept it as norm and don't even question it, and went away from the mental health portion of it. Did I hear that right? Is that kind of the progression there?
That's exactly it. And there's a very clear reason why they pivoted in that way. So originally, when they were called something else when they started out, the Harry Benjamin International Gender Dysphoria Association, HIBIGDA. And they recognized that identifying as trans for various reasons was a psychiatric issue and in need of psychiatric support. And then around the late 1990s to the early 2000s, as modern trans activism is getting off the ground, WPATH, then HIBIGDA, starts to become overrun by trans-identified activists who then shape what's going on the inside of the organization. And from around the early 2000s onwards, their goals are political goals. They're not evidence-based scientific goals. And because the modern trans rights movement reframed being trans as perfectly natural and healthy, it's called de-psychopathologization, they reframed it and they forbid anyone from suggesting that there was a psychiatric issue underlying these identities. Because WPATH was guided completely by trans activism, that's the path that they went on. But crucially, the important thing about that is when you redefine this psychiatric issue as being perfectly natural and healthy, that immediately prevents ethical psychotherapeutic care to help the person reconcile body and mind. And it opens the door only to medicalization. There is nothing else you can do if you're treating the identity as healthy. There's nothing you can do but so-called fix the body with experimental hormones and surgeries.
Go ahead, Lev.
I was going to say that's kind of the issue that we have here in Canada with regards to with conversion. You're not allowed to persuade otherwise.
Conversion therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
C4.
C4. Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
C4.
Let me just point out for anyone who's not clear, the darkest of ironies with our conversion therapy ban is that it's precisely that. So they banned gay conversion therapy, which wasn't even happening in Canada. They banned something that wasn't even happening. And the only reason that they did that is because they wanted to tie it to so-called gender identity. So they made it so that, it's conversion therapy to try and help a person overcome their feelings of gender distress. They conflate that with gay conversion therapy. So now the only option you have in Canada is to affirm the transgender identity and then medicalize the body. But the darkest of ironies is most of the kids who got sucked into this would, if left to grow and mature, have grown into homosexual adults, because extreme gender nonconformity in childhood is a strong indicator of homosexuality in adulthood. So our conversion therapy ban, so-called, actually makes the new conversion therapy, converting the bodies of gay and lesbian young people, the only option. You see the irony?
Yeah, because you can't actually have any therapy to assist them or even show them the the traditional path forward. So, like you're saying, like if they have the issue as a young person, they may likely end up gay or lesbian, which is a lifestyle some people are involved in. But now it's the therapy, it's the hormone blockers, it's the surgeries, it's you are a girl, getting into sports and other things. Before we continue on this subject, I do want to kind of highlight your background a bit. You're not a right-leaning person. You're from the left, and you're what we would call the lefugee, like somebody who was on the left and then kind of saw some things they didn't like and said, "Oh, I'm going to back away from that." Because I do want to highlight here that this isn't something like you're not right-leaning. You're not a conservative traditionally. You just kind of sound like one now.
That's true. I am. I'm a lefugee. I was woke. It's embarrassing, but I was. I in the 2010s, all of these crazy ideas come along, and because they came out of the left, and I had always traditionally been on the left. So the left starts saying, trans women are women, and all white people are racist. And I'm like, okay, it sounds a bit weird, but all right. I didn't realize they meant trans women were women. I didn't realize we had to actually believe that they were women. That's just stupid. And as soon as I realized that that's what they expected of us, that's when I left the left. I fled like my life depended on it. But yeah, I don't know what I would say. I will say that this is a medical scandal. What I have devoted my life to speaking and writing about is a medical scandal. It has been politicized by the left. The left turned it into a human rights issue, and they put it front and center in all of their political campaigning. So the left made this political, but this is actually not a left-right issue. It's not a political issue. It's a medical scandal. In my opinion, it's the worst medical scandal in the history of modern medicine. And I would love it if we could just take the politics out of it and look at the actual harm that's being done.
I'd agree. And one of the things that we're seeing is that medical transitioning is a one-way street, because when people do have clarity of mind and they want to detransition, the medical community does not support them. They do not have the counseling support that's also required in order to assist them. So it is very a one-way street that we've discovered. And of course, again, it's with Bill C4, where you cannot support the conversion. These people are left stranded not only by the medical community, but even their community in general that welcomed them so much with open arms. So that's been difficult for them to deal with as well.
And Katie, what was her name again? Kelly Lynn Prairie.
Yeah.
Prairie?
So yeah, Kelly Lynn Prairie is a huge advocate. She has detransitioned. She for the longest time lived as a man, full grown beard, all that type of thing. And she's seeing it that yes, it does start young. There was another woman that we interviewed, Faith. She started her transition journey into male, and then she realized, thankfully, it stopped fairly soon after a couple of years. But it was seen that she came to her senses by herself because counselors supported her, the medical community supported her to change. Her mom's coming along with her to try and support, but her mom's like, "You sure? Is this what you want to do?" But everyone was very gung-ho to say, no, you can't argue with your daughter. This is what she wants to do. She wants to transition to be a man. And thankfully, Faith had clarity of mind and says, no, this is not what I want to do. And thankfully for her as well, she says it wasn't late enough that she can still have children should she ever want. So the support for detransitioners is very, very lacking, both from the medical community and within the alphabet community as well. Have you come across that too?
Sorry, and here in Alberta, we have Lois Cardinal as well. And
Correct.
The only path for Lois at this stage is maids. So Lois is looking at maids because there is no path for detransitioners here as well. So this is a medical scandal, and people are actually dying. And this is what they said they were trying to prevent, was the death of young people. But they're actually using government-assisted suicide in order to address some of these concerns now.
Canada always has maids now. So
there's so much there. There's a new word that I think we should all start using: detransphobia. There's a lot of we're always accused of transphobia, but really the detrans community experienced so much abuse from the people who harmed them. Basically, the community that sucked them in and lied to them, from the medical professionals who experimented on them without any scientific justification, from everyone who affirmed them when all they needed was to be kept grounded in truth, grounded in reality, and given the chance to grow and mature and make it into adulthood with all of their body parts and their fertility and their health intact. So these young people have been failed. I know an enormous number of extremely inspirational detransitioners who have come through, and they're angry, of course, and there's a lot of despair, and it's a difficult time, but they've come through, they've rebuilt their lives, and they are looking forward to the future. So it doesn't have to be made. It doesn't have to be, it's not the end. You can overcome it, but it is a crime what has been done to them. It is a crime what we in Canada continue to allow to happen to all of these young people. I'm hardline in that I believe not a single young person should be allowed to transition. I know Danielle Smith has her Bill 26 that is preventing, but that puts age restrictions, so under 16s can't access these treatments. The brain does not finish maturing until around age 25, sometimes later if you've got neurodivergence. And you cannot make any of these decisions until, I don't honestly think it's appropriate for anyone, but at the very least, you've got to be fully mature, reach adulthood, really understand that this is not an ideal outcome. It's definitely not something to be celebrated. We just need an entire cultural shift on the way we look at it. And Canada's so far from that, especially with our conversion therapy ban. But what we need to look at is medical transition is not the desired outcome. The desired outcome is reconciling body and mind, getting the young person or whomever, for whatever reason they've come to the conclusion that they are trans, get them through that and help them understand that medical transition is not the answer in most cases.
I would agree, and I'm not sure what your connection still is within the UK, but remember there was that youth clinic, the Gender Identification Development Services, that was doing transitions for the youth, and they're now closed. They closed, last year? So what has been the ripple effect that you're aware of, if any, from those who were transitioned or were going through the process or were looking for that support within the UK? Because I'd love to see that happen here.
It's a bit murky in the UK. So that was the Cass report, basically, that shut down the GIDS clinic, the Tavistock in London. And then they opened up. The idea was they examined, they did 4 years of investigation, and they realized that this affirmation and medicalization approach is absolutely not appropriate. And we need to change to a mental health holistic approach. And bear in mind, that clinic, the one that is at the center of such an enormous scandal, was so cautious compared to what Canadian gender clinics are. And people need to understand that, right? The GIDS clinic did not just immediately affirm and medicalize every kid who walks through the door. Whereas if you look at what's going on in Canadian gender clinics, 5 out of 10, the last time I checked, we have 10 main gender clinics from coast to coast, pediatric gender clinics. 5 out of 10 do not require any form of psychological assessment or counseling before starting medical transition. That's made clear on their websites. So we are much more reckless here, and yet the scandal broke in England and they shut down that clinic. They did try and follow up with the 9,000 kids who had gone through the clinic as part of the Cass report, and they tried to get the records from the adult gender clinics, and then the adult gender clinics refused to turn over those records. That to me means the adult clinics know that most of them are probably detransitioned, and then they're not medicalized and living happy, healthy lives as trans-identified people. But that's another story entirely. So it's all quite messy in England, because then they've also got this, Cass recommended they launch a trial into puberty blockers, a clinical trial to find out whether blocking puberty is safe and beneficial and effective. And I'm even opposed to that, because in order to block the puberty of a young person who believes themselves to be transgender, you have to completely ignore everything that we now know about puberty blockers, which is that they lock in the trans identity. They make medical transition almost a foregone conclusion, which means they are not reversible like they were first sold as being. And you also have to throw out the window every single thing that we know about child and adolescent development that tells you it's a stage of great change and experimentation and identity development, and you do not permanently medicalize an adolescent identity. So I don't think there could ever be any ethical justification for even studying puberty blockers at this point. I think the entire experiment has been atrocious and misguided from the start, and it all needs to be ended immediately.
I agree.
100%. Yeah, bravo on that one for sure.
Yeah.
And as parents of some young people, we never thought we'd have to sit down and have conversations about gender identity, and that kind of stuff, because we're homeschooling, and that wasn't going to be part of our curriculum. But what is part of our curriculum is addressing it in the media and the stuff that they're watching, and saying, "Hey, look, you're going to see stuff like this, and let us know." And this is what they're talking about. So we are forced to school our kids about the issue, not in an affirming way, but in exposing it type of way, so they understand it. And we're seeing a pushback on Netflix. We're canceling our Netflix for sure. We've already done that because they put it into children's programming. So not only were we originally dealing with a mental health issue, it's also in the programming and indoctrination side of things now, which is pushing that mental health concerns as well.
The normalization of it.
The normalization of it, and also not addressing it as a mental health issue, addressing it as, hey, kids, it's normal. If you like boy stuff, you're a boy. So to reverse this, there's a lot of paths to turn around and go backwards. What are your thoughts about the push against Netflix, the programming that they have in there, and other programming like that where they're pushing the trans agenda?
Yeah, that brings me back to where we started, this whole de-psychopathologization. It all stems from that. So if trans is natural and healthy, then sure, let's put trans characters in children's shows, on the cover of magazines. Let's celebrate them. It's great that all these natural and healthy people can finally be their true selves. That's one way of looking at it. The dark reality is, of course, that trans is... It's complicated describing it as a psychiatric disorder. There's a talk coming out later that, goodness me, has it ever generated a lot of discussion, to put it mildly. My talk will come out later, but it's much better to look at it as trans is the result of various psychiatric challenges, and it's also socially contagious. So when they made it that trans is natural and healthy, and if you hate your body, that could be a sign that you're trans, that made it that every single adolescent going through puberty was at risk of misinterpreting their normal pubertal distress as a sign that they are transgender. And we know, because it triggered a social contagion starting around 2014, precisely when trans activism started bombarding kids with this very message in media and schools and everywhere, that's when the spike occurred and we see the social contagion begin. So it's just confusing kids, because we are celebrating something that is clearly a psychiatric disorder. We're celebrating it as an identity. Like, it's basically the equivalent of putting an anorexic person on the cover of a magazine, celebrating that person, calling them brave and courageous for losing so much weight and being so thin, and then triggering a social contagion of adolescent girls suffering from anorexia, and then everybody celebrating the social contagion and pretending it's a good thing. So you've got to just come back to the reality, forget the stupid trans activist messaging, come back to the reality that you don't have to stigmatize these people, you don't have to marginalize them, you actually have to help them. And I think it's marginalizing them and dangerous for them not to recognize that they need help. They need psychiatric help. They need compassionate, ethical, psychotherapeutic support. So I love that you're inoculating your children. I inoculated my own children with the truth, and they are able to recognize all of the nonsense that is swirling all around them. And I cannot stress that enough, that every parent raising children in Canada, homeschooled or in the public school system, you really truly must inoculate your children with the truth, because once your kid gets sucked into this, there's a medical world lying in wait that has lost its moral and ethical compass, that will just take your child and affirm that identity and perform irreversible experimental medical interventions on them for which there is no scientific foundation whatsoever. So you want to protect your children before they fall into this madness, because once they're in, it's very difficult to pull them out.
Right.
Completely agree with that, and we've seen that. And that wasn't the reason why we pulled them out of school. They just weren't getting the education that they deserved. But this is something we've had to address. It's in YouTube. It's in all the stuff that pops up, even in the music too now. What are some of the ways that we can counter this? So is it counter activism? Is it going to be legislation? Is it going to be just the school system? We got to change it. All of the above. Like, how do we start countering this thing? Because it's cultural now. It's forced on us in mainstream media.
Yeah, it's an enormous task. We really are at the beginning. You can look elsewhere in the world what they've managed to achieve, and that's what we're aiming for. But here in Canada, we're just at least 5 years behind everyone else. So first of all, everybody needs to throw their support vocally and as loudly as possible behind Danielle Smith and the 3 bills that she courageously passed, because they're all facing legal challenges, especially the health bill that EGAL, supposedly an LGBT charity, is trying to overturn. So throw your support behind Danielle Smith. Don't be afraid. I mean, we met in Calgary, and I spoke at the We Unify conference, and my talk was breaking the spiral of silence. The whole point was, first of all, educate yourself on this medical scandal, understand what it is, understand what's really happening, and reject all of the activist bluster that you hear all around you, and educate yourself, and then don't be afraid to talk about it. You'll be amazed how much support there is out there. I talk to Canadians from all walks of life all the time, every time I leave my house, and everyone supports me. Nobody disagrees with me ever, because decent people don't support this medical scandal, and decent people don't support children being raised in a mad alternate reality that, tells them they need body parts chopped off if they don't conform to stereotypes. So don't be afraid to talk about it. Inoculate your kids. Talk to your children's schools if they're teaching this garbage, if they've got the flags in the classroom. I will say it's very difficult, because their defenses go up. They think, oh my goodness, she's some radicalized right-wing Nazi or something. So approaching it gently, tiptoeing in, being as polite as possible, and laying the groundwork, explaining what's really happening, and being patient, because it really actually takes time to deprogram. It's like deprogramming people from a cult. That's where we are. We're in this mass delusion, and we have to gradually restore sanity one brick at a time. But I think it can be done. I couldn't do what I do unless I believed we could restore reality and sanity and safeguarding. I think it can be done.
That's wonderful. And I can't imagine anybody thinking you're a radical unless they join you for breakfast and see your hipster meal. Other than that, you'll be fine. In your research, you kind of pinpointed when the pivot happened. Now, let's quickly talk about, as we wrap up here, the why. The why did that pivot happen? Some of the things I've learned from, like, Donald Best, who's researched the industrial trans complex, the industry of it, and you basically have a patient for life who's going to need lots of drugs and lots of therapy, and especially if they go through the physical portion, there's a lot of recovery, and you may never fully recover. You may have a lifelong patient there. So have your research helped you kind of identify the why that pivot that happened?
Yes, but I'm in a different camp. I understand what you're saying, and they're creating lifelong medical patients. But I actually don't believe that financial gain is the driver. I believe that ideology is the driver. In the short time I have, I'll try and do it justice. So basically, in the 1980s, 1990s, when they were gearing up to launch trans activism, they had a choice: stay grounded in reality, but then they would have to basically sell a fetish to the world, because most men who identify as women are aroused by the fantasy of being women, and it's a paraphilia, it's a fetish, and that's going to be a really difficult sell. So they decided to instead create this alternate reality in which these men don't have a paraphilia. They just have a female gender essence residing within them. It's called a gender identity. And then because they'd created a mad reality that's completely not grounded in truth at all, and then they had to force all of society to live in that world. If you look at all of our legislation, like, it's based on gender identity. You can access, men can access women's spaces if they say that they have a female gender identity. All of the rights movement was based on this concept of the gender identity that was fabricated in order to hide the actual paraphilic desires that really truly are driving these men. And so when you've created a whole new reality and you're forcing everyone to live in that world, you really do have to go on an enormous, massive marketing campaign, which we know started in 2014 with Laverne Cox on the cover of Time magazine. It announced the transgender tipping point, America's next civil rights frontier. And then the messaging was suddenly everywhere in all forms of media. And crucially, the last point I'll make is, when you're going to force all of society to live in a mad world that has no grounding in truth, and it requires that kids have body parts chopped off, you are going to have to viciously punish anyone who questions, anyone who disagrees, anyone who refuses to go along with it. And that's precisely what they did. They ruined absolutely everyone who said, no, men are not women, or, oh, maybe it's not such a good idea to chop the healthy breasts off 16-year-old girls. They just viciously persecuted them and ruined them. And here we are today living with the consequences.
You're very correct. Laverne Cox, Orange is the New Black, seeing that character on a mainstream television show normalized it incredibly, made them very, very relatable. So yeah, I would agree. That point in time and using that particular person and TV character, I think that's an excellent highlight there for Laverne.
Do I have time to make one more point? It's really interesting.
Please do.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm a Brit. Are you a Brit too? You're a Brit as well?
I was educated there, so lots of time in England, lots of time watching Eurotrash in the 90s and seeing what was going on in Europe, where I got a lot of my I'd say fetish education there, where we saw a lot of it.
Right.
Yeah, if you ever watch Eurotrash, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
But what about Coronation Street? I'm going with Hayley Cropper here. So I was born and raised in England. I grew up on a good, healthy diet of Coronation Street. And in the 1990s, they introduced this trans woman character in Coronation Street. Her name's Hayley Cropper. She's played by a woman. And so for the longest time, I just think maybe they were priming us for trans rights. It's the 1990s. And I put that theory out there. And then a bunch of women who'd done the research told me that that's actually exactly what they did in the 1990s. Like I said, they were playing the long game. They've created a whole new reality and they need to force everyone to live in this reality. So in the 1990s, they put this character, Hayley Cropper, into Coronation Street, played by a woman, but she's supposedly a trans woman. And they, poor vulnerable Hayley, she's working at the sewing factory and all she wants is to be accepted
as well.
I know, the sweetest.
It wasn't like it was this fancy teenager. It was a older woman,
dowdy, motherly,
exactly.
Poor vulnerable Hayley. And Hayley primed the UK for the 2004 Gender Recognition Act, which that's why they put Hayley into that show, so that they could have everyone, when the debate comes, everyone's thinking, oh, these poor vulnerable women, the trans women that need protection, and everyone's thinking Hayley Cropper. And I can say, when I was woke, exactly the same thing happened to me. When everyone starts talking trans women are women in like 2014, 2015, my mind, I'm thinking Hayley Cropper. Oh yeah, of course, trans women are women. They really did manipulate us through the media. And then of course we had Jazz Jennings come along in 2007. They had this Barbara Walters show with a very sweet, cute, adorable Jazz Jennings, who was supposedly a transgender child. And then everybody's supposed to get on board with this concept of the transgender child. But nobody's talking about the dark side of it, the paraphilic side of it, or the future that they've stolen from this little boy, Jazz Jennings, who, is destined to have his puberty blocked and be pumped full of estrogen and then have his penis chopped off. Like, Nobody talks about that side of it. They just paint the rosy, glowy, sparkly rainbow version of it and then dupe people into supporting something that is really, truly evil.
Yeah, I don't think they would have had that kind of success if they introduced a character who swam as a man with children and girls and changed in their dressing room, or a man who was boxing women and beating them up in the ring. I don't think they would have had the same type of success if they introduced characters like that.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But no, there's a very good point about that character. I was an EastEnders fan, I have to admit, but I knew exactly who you talk about. And yeah, they introduced this, I would say middle-aged, but probably like in her 40s, you know, dowdy. So it wasn't anything flashing, wasn't drag queen related, but just this person, and the big secret was a transgender. But yeah, no, I remember that very much. And you're right. I again grew up in the 80s, 90s in the UK. I would say, yes, in hindsight, I'm a left UG as well. Because yeah, growing up, it was just normal. It was meant to be accepted. But you're right. These are the seeds that they planted, and look at what it's blossomed into today. And it's terrible.
Well, Mia, thank you so much. It's great to have a second British accent here. Paula's accent gets thicker when we have somebody on that has one as well. If you don't mind, we can have a few more minutes with you with our members section, because we're going to end the public side of things, but we'll get into there. If you have a few more minutes, you can hang out and we'll chat some more.
Sure, that's fine. Thank you for having me.
Where can people find your work and follow you?
So I'm only on Twitter. It's @_CryMiaRiver. Then I'm with Macdonald Laurier, the Macdonald Laurier Institute. So all of my Canadian writing can be found on my page on the MLI website. I write a lot for GenSpect as well. And then I'm all over YouTube. Just put my name into YouTube and you'll find plenty of talks and interviews.
Great.
Thank you very much, Mia. And that's Cry Mia with MIA River.
Yes.
Great handle, by the way.
Thank you.
No copyright claim from Justin Timberlake.
Justin
no copyright claim from him, right? You're good to go. All right, so hang on. We'll see you in a minute. We're just going to say goodbye to the public, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Well, that was an awesome interview.
Yeah, it was.
And her audio was fine the whole time. So she doesn't have to worry about that.
It's one of my favorite subject matters because it's what's prompted me to run for the school board trustee. These are the ideologies that are not for children, and it should not be encouraged. So I love this subject matter. And I really appreciate how she highlighted that it was an ideology, not necessarily for profit. The for profit might be greasing the wheels, making it go along easier and quicker. Like if doctors are receiving commissions on this kind of stuff, that might help grease the wheel. But I like how she highlighted that that's not necessarily the catalyst, the reason why it's happening. The reason why is normalizing a perversion, really. Yep. All right. So public, there you go. Very excited to have her on. And yeah, she has avocado toast for breakfast. So have yourself a wonderful day. Make sure you take care of each other. Love you all. Yeah, and everyone have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow. And locals, we'll see you soon. God bless.